that building was dedicated for that space. Probably thankfully we did not win that grant, it probably wasn't, but we came very close, and we wouldn't have if Tim didn't help me put the whole idea together, because at the time he was a video producer and he created the whole idea, helping me really to apply for those funds. But from that point on, we have collaborated ever since. Now the first, I can tell so many stories, we'd be here all night, but the first time the warehouse district had some really board members who were not that thinking about moving ahead. They tried to block things better than help things. So Tim had proposed many times to try to help us raise money. In fact, the first event we did was we created Preservation Week in the warehouse district in 1987, and every bar that Tim got to work with us took a different decade. So we had somebody during the Roaring 20s, and we had somebody celebrating VE Day in Europe, and the warehouse district never had as much people in it at the time. And in spite of that, one of the board members came into the meeting right after that and said, "This would have been awful." We weren't ready to have that big of crowds. That was the mentality of a certain board member we had. So we had a chairman.
By the way, Tom, that was a board member who stopped any other person from working with you.
Yeah, I didn't say his name, but I don't. But he, a lot of that's one of the challenges I have in writing a book. I always ask people, how honest could I be? A lot of people might get offended if I say their name. So fast forward, this guy blocked 3 proposals at the board level to raise money for the warehouse district. So Tim took his talents elsewhere because this organization, which at the time was called North Cuyahoga Valley Corridor Inc., so you know I'm not good at coming up with names of organizations. From a marketing standpoint, we had $11 in our checking account, and I don't know if Jeff Lenartz or Mike Jean Grande are here, but we were the 3 original trustees. We actually had a good cause, but we were in danger of not being able to function. So Tim offered to create an event, and we created on the Superior Viaduct called When I Grow Up, I Want to Be Just Like Dad. And actually, I wanted to find a program for that because it was quite prophetic about what this project became. It was very visionary about what we thought could happen with the River Valley. And Tim bartered everything we had at that party because we had no money. So one of the guys now deceased who really helped us was Pete Massano at Cleveland PM. He donated the food to us. And he created this giant hoagie sandwich that was twisting and turning. It was called the Kaya Hoagie. And we bartered so many things. Tim got people to donate us food, drink in exchange for tickets. So we have a couple great stories of that. Nautica had just opened, and they had 2 comedians down on the boardwalk that had no crowds whatsoever. So we called out and said, "Well, why don't you have your comedians come up to our event?" At least turned out one of those people was Drew Carey. So it wasn't all that well known back then. The other thing that happened, we had this phenomenal night. We ended up netting $11,000. We never looked back after that. But the other thing that happened was when our night ended, we were saying, "Okay, it's time to go home." All of a sudden, huge fireworks just erupted on the viaduct, on the riverfront. And people came up to us and said, "God, is there anything you guys don't think of? We don't know who did that. We have no clue why it happened." But it just shows you how serendipitous our future was. So that was 1989. We did a similar event in the viaduct in 1990 called Catch the First Train to Cleveland, where Tim created a papier-mâché, lit-up, moving train, like it was moving. And we also had a song commission called Catch the Last Train to Clarksville.
It was based on that.
It was based on the Monkees' Last Train to Clarksville. So a very creative guy, obviously. And we had people actually calling us trying to buy tickets for the train ride. Even though he said it was what word did we use?
The virtual
train ride. They didn't understand the word virtual. So, a certain gentleman became mayor, and Tim was a speechwriter for Mayor Voinovich. And when Mike White became mayor, Tim had an office in the mayor's office and wasn't as welcome with the new mayor as the prior mayor. So he had a census project he was completing for the city of Cleveland to make sure we get counted for 1990. When that project ended, again, we were at a crossroads as an organization. He volunteered. I won a grant from the Gun Foundation to create a public information campaign about this idea of creating the heritage area. And Tim came on board with me, agreed to be the director, kind of a part-time basis, that's what we had. But he grew that position into what it became. Candidly, we were assisted by growing way beyond Mike Giangrande and Jeff and myself. I was the board chair from 85 to 92. John Furcher became chair in 92 and really added some corporate dimension to who we were. But it really is Tim's doing. He carried this idea. One other story I want to tell real quick, because we're going to do a lot of stories, is one of my greatest influences on my life. Is Mike. Mike again.
Push it in there. There you go.
I got it. Anyway, one of my oldest uncle was born in Europe, and he was a missionary for the Passionist Order and was a chaplain in the World War II in Burma. By being in the Southeast Asian area, he actually spoke 6 languages. He was editor of a national Catholic magazine, and I took Tim to meet him for lunch. Maybe I don't know if Tim remembers this or not.
I remember.
And so he explained his life and what he does and his mission. And so Father Cyril was his name. He said, "And what do you do, Tim?" And Tim said, "Father, I'm a little bit like you." And he went on to explain with great passion his mission to what we hope to become. And I'll never forget that because it was awesome. It was inspiring that he had that vision of what Canalway could be, or what the corridor could be, or whatever we called it back then. So those are touch points of just having the memory of one of the concepts that I really appreciate is the concept of grace. Certain people have very much graced my life. Tim is clearly near the top of that list, or if not at the top of the list. And he had the dedication and vision to get the thing built. And it wasn't done, it was done with a lot of people, which we'll recognize tonight. There's a couple of other moments, because one of the things that we envisioned, Tim and I, was we had to win over key decision makers. So, and I could talk about it was very serendipitous. At the time we created this idea, the person that was head of the Metro Parks, the person that was head of NOACA, and the person that was head of the Cuyahoga Valley, not that they were bad people, but they really weren't paying attention. So, for example, when John Debo got hired as head of Cuyahoga Valley, in the first 2 weeks he was here, I think Tim and I got him on the good time too. We took him on a boat ride, and he understood the connection between the national park and Cleveland. And we had a lot of dedication and visionary moments such as that. So I hope I'll be back up here to tell more stories. I do have, before I forget, I do have one thing to read.
Okay, most of the other speakers that will follow Donovan and me
Be short.
do not be this long.
All right. I just wanted, before I forget, one of the other lifelong collaborators with Tim and myself, in fact, I don't remember the date, but I know I met him, was Dick Pace. And Dick Pace and I staffed a booth at the Cleveland Home and Flower Show in 1986 of February, where we showed what a loft apartment can be, and about 80% of the people that came by said, "Nobody will ever live in downtown Cleveland. Whoever wants to live in a loft apartment," just so you know, there's 62 adaptive use buildings in downtown today. So Dick could not be here tonight, so he wanted us to read this letter. So, dear Tim, I want to take this opportunity to thank you for the decades of service to our community. You have been a tireless advocate for a city. For all these years, you have dedicated your life to the betterment of Cleveland. You see Cleveland not only as the buildings, but more importantly as the people. You see Cleveland history not merely as a lesson to learn, but an inspiration to do better. You have succeeded against all costs. When Tom Yablonsky introduced me to the guy who wanted to celebrate the industrial history by improving our recreational assets, I was a little skeptical. I wonder why Tom thought the warehouse district was related to the industrial flats, let alone the entire canal corridor. But I smiled and enjoyed another beer at the first Scrooge's night out. Little did I know how much fun Tim had in store for me and for Cleveland in the following decades. I'm sure I would never have believed that Tim would raise the millions of dollars and achieve the dreams of creating an amazing the amazing asset, he means the towpath, for future generations of Northeast Ohio. Now we all accept Tim's dream as our own. You are passionate about many things, but friendship and loyalty are true trademarks of your character. I also want to thank you for the last 4 decades of friendship. It means more than you will ever know. Dick Pace.
Thank you, Dick. By the way, there's a little housekeeping item here. I know some people have other things on their agenda tonight they have to go to, so they wanted to stop by and do something quick here, get something meaningful. I would invite those folks to come on up here to my right, and we'll somehow, and here's one of them right here, Jonathan Sander. Jonathan, go ahead. After you're done, I want to put some backfill into some of Tom's remarks.